Right, welcome to Warblock. I'm going to play the Eritrean Ethiopian war game. I'm not going to play it all. I'm going to try and keep it to 15 minutes. I just want to give an overview. I think this game would be an epic based on the amount of time it takes me to play much smaller games. I think that this would just be hours of play. I think this is the big daddy of games on this site, and obviously get bigger games, but I just wanted to sort of introduce this game. Really, I don't really want to. Oh, I will click the play thing and try and get straight into it. I've made a few modifications, so there are still some sort of bugs here and there, but I mean, a bit of historical background. I mean, essentially this is Eritrea, and although this is, I think, the current border, the border was more like that. I mean, this was a clear invasion of Ethiopian territory. One thing that I haven't done, there's quite a few things that I keep meaning to do, there's so much to do, I can't do it all. A little toggle to toggle all the units off so you can see what's underneath, but there's a fort there, that's fortified. That's a fortified, and that's the objective. That's a place called something or other, and you've got to take it. Now, it's an interesting strategy. Basically, Eritrea has nothing to do in the first turn, and I'm not actually going to do anything because I want to maybe speed it up, get some turns through. So, yep, next the Ethiopian player. Now, this is where the gameplay gets interesting because it's a big game and you've got some air power. Now, if you look down the list, Ethiopia gets quite a lot of units, including a little more air power later on. But if you also look down on the main list, you'll see that Ethiopia doesn't actually get any troops on until turn 10, and they're coming down here. Now, as the Eritrean player, you're not allowed to just pile down here and form your line. You're forming the line here, which is part of a much larger line. I don't know why they chose here to attack here, but so you've got to play sort of within the sort of the framework of what's meant to be, really. But so essentially, I mean, you could move about, do what you want, but I haven't moved them. Although, to be quite honest, you should move them. Now, the point I'm really trying to get to here is you've got 10 turns of nothing but air power. And so, you've got to think, okay, as the Ethiopian player, what do I want to take out? I mean, there's so much to choose from here. Now, currently, the armour has no significant value, although it will do. Sooner or later, it will be 1.5 times versus infantry. Infantry will also be half attacking it, so it's a double whammy. So, armour is a good choice. Artillery is a good choice to go for. You might choose to take it as artillery, or if you look at these, they're rockets. Rockets have a little more range. So what do you go for? Large artillery regiment, or do you go for the air power? Because essentially, every time you fly your sorties, these are going to be, having a crack at you. So I think what's interesting about this start play is the choices. Now, I'm not going to really think too much about the choices because I just want to get on with, showing some gameplay. So essentially, it's through to the air power section, as has been seen before. As you can see, there are 6 air power defense units on this stack. But there's also 2 within range, so that gives him a total of 6, 12, 18 factors. That's pretty high. So this is one of the reasons I'm going for this air unit. Now, this is a game mechanic and not necessarily something that I really want to promote, but I'm also very much into, well, if the rules allow you to do it, then do it. What I'm getting to is, if you attack these, now I can't remember really what the odds are, but if you attack these, and now I might have the mechanics wrong here, it might be using the 1 as the defense. It should be using 6. I played this briefly before and ironed out a few bugs. There might be still some more. It's full of bugs, but they're not big ones. Point is, if I do this all in one attack, I might get 2-to-1 odds. If I do it as 3 little attacks, I might get 3 1-to-1s, basically get better results. And that's what I'm trying to say, is I'm going to just go for this unit. Now on this one, I got 1-to-1 odds, and there was no result. Now if I'd got a result, these odds here might have been a bit different. I'm going to go again. So if you see what I'm saying, so there I got 1-to-1, but I've got an exchange. Now if I'd done that on a 2-to-1, I could have got no result. I'm more likely, by staggering my units, to get a reasonable result. And there you go. I could have done those all one at a time. Look, it might have been because I attacked him before, but now he's at 2 depressions. So it's better to do it one by one almost. Now I'm not sure whether or not because it seems a bit odd to me that he's only got an offensive factor of 2 and he's got defenses of 6 because he's, air power, and we've got these units here. So I will maybe have to look into that, but I don't want to slow the game down too much. Essentially, the first 10 turns are pretty much taking things out, and I can tell I'm not even going to get to the interesting part of bringing the units on. But this is an incredibly interesting game. Now, historically, I don't know exactly what the setup was. I don't even know the deployment. All I know is that the Eretrians had about 2 brigades. This is 2 very generous brigades. Put it another way, well, to put it into perspective, the Ethiopians have twice as much. They have 2-to-1. And so the list is really, really long for the Ethiopians. So when they start putting their units on, you've got a lot of gameplay. You've got a lot of options. It's a strange game. It's very different to all the others, and I'm just wondering how. I just don't have time to play it through. Now, when I was looking at it strategically, I would be. Let's suppose this airplane is the unit. I mean, you're supposed to basically attack here. Find the weaknesses. Do you go over the mountains, through the mountains with infantry, because tracked units can't go through the mountains? Do you do this? When I sort of looked at it, I thought, what I would do, I'd go this way, break through these smaller units with everything, because if you've got all of your units concentrating on this one place, he'd have to come out of his defences to attack around there, and then up here, and but that would be an illegal game move. I'm just saying, if you were to play that, there's no rules in it, nothing to stop you doing it, but slap on the wrist if you do that. Now, I'm going to try my strategy out again. I'm totally going to fail at wrapping through the air power and getting to the infantry movement. So, see, there you go, 1-to-1. Now, there's got to be something odd there. I think he's defending on that, but it doesn't matter. I'm just going to use it, do it for what it is. I'll have to sort that out. Now, what we haven't had so far, which is sort of what I was maybe almost looking out for. Now, this does actually give you a bit of an insight, because instead of doing 1-to-1 attack and maybe getting a 2-to-1 and getting ADR or an exchange, he's so whittled down now at Depression 5, I'm getting twice as much against him. So it's certainly better to do flights one at a time. Now, that's the end of the Ethiopian turn. And the Eritreans are not going to move. Now, I think if you were playing the Eritreans, they would actually, I think, start moving, and I think I might deploy them a little differently, and I think I might actually reinforce them to some extent. I've got to look into the defensive, the way the air power works on these air units. I thought I'd sorted that out. I don't want to keep apologising for that, but actually you really need to put these air units with infantry or with something larger to get the odds down and to protect them. Otherwise they're quite vulnerable on their own. So I think they need sort of like maybe an extra set of battalions just to defend their positions. I just don't know how the long-term gameplay is going to work out. But already, I'm truly pummeling the Eritreans. They're on 2 depressions. These people are on. Well, who did we attack? No idea who I attacked. It's so bizarre. Right, well, now we've got even more air power. It is interesting me to some extent how I haven't yet. So he's got no depressions against him. I'm living in a dream world. I can't even imagine who I was attacking before. Thank God. Now, there's a couple of little things to say on this. Firstly, that's a helicopter. I will be dividing air power into 3 unit types: helicopters, ground attack, and bombers. Because I think the air defense will behave differently on all 3. I think helicopters are very vulnerable, far more vulnerable than a fast-moving ground strike that's just doing a flyby with some bombs or whatever. And it's certainly a lot less vulnerable than a strategic bomber at 30,000 feet with laser guided weapons. You're not going to get that sort of thing with your with your sort of your AA guns. So I'm going to introduce that. But anyway, the thing about this Eritrean game is that they've got a lot of air power, and unless you start to take it out early, you can lose units. Now I just lost a unit. That's permanent, and if that happens earlier on, it has a compound effect. If you lose your air power, I think you've seriously at a loss in this game. I haven't played it through yet, and that's one of the interesting things about this game. It does seem to have so many permutations and variations in the way it could work that it's sort of important. Do you actually go for their anti-aircraft first, which is what I'm doing here, or do you go for their artillery or their armor? Thinking forward to a time when their armor is actually, now he's at 7. I'm not going to bother going for him anymore, just simply because he's not worth anything. So I'm going to find something else to attack. So I think essentially it's fair to say that this is a big game, a lot bigger than the others. As you can see, he's got 7 depressions. He's got 2. Someone else here has. Unless he actually died. Is there someone there? I think the fact that I can't see another air unit is possibly something a bit odd. I'll have to look back at how the setup should be. So anyway, maybe I can go for some rockets. We're doing as much damage, earlier on against the Eritreans is the key. You get 10 turns of your air power, and again, they do have anti-aircraft. This wasn't shot down, but half strength. So I think this is interesting just because you get so long to strategically undermine their positions with your air power before you even bring your units on. So I'm going to sort of got a few more seconds, but I think basically leave it at that. Hopefully you might have some fun playing this game. Got 6 seconds left. Can you do it? Exchange.